Hi and welcome to my channel. My name is Beth and I am the Bookworm Tray. And today I am bringing you the Nope Trope Tag, which I was tagged in by Nerdy Nat Reads. Just forgive me as I go into the next bit because I find Nat's channel name really hard to say. But if you're not already following Nerdy Nat Reads, then please do. She is just such a lovely soul. Her videos are just so calming and so relaxing. She just has this really nice, calm energy that I do not have. And as a testament to my lack of calm, peaceful energy, I did not do any prep for this video, and I've just had a look at the questions and this is going to be a hard one. But what is the saying? Nothing worth doing is easy is possibly a saying. I don't think that's the saying. You know what I mean. So let's get into the questions and I will try my very best to answer them. There is only 6, so we can do it. So this tag is all about tropes in books, things that we like, things that we don't like. So question number 1 is eavesdropping with miscommunication. So this is the trope of when we have a character in a book and they overhear something and then they don't listen to the full story, or they don't hear the beginning bit, and rather than just being like, hey, can you just explain why you said this about me, they make an assumption and it causes something to happen in the plot. I get it, it's a writing device, but let's be honest, it's pretty annoying. So the question for this trope is, name a book you heard great things about and expected to love but ended up hating. And for this, I'm going to talk about a very hyped book on BookTube, which is currently, I think, like my most hated book of the year, and that is The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue. I gave this book 2 stars. I might have given it 3 stars, but I think I popped it down to 2 because I thought this book was shit. Sorry. I had heard such good things about this book, and I know this book is kind of divisive. There are people who love it, there are people that hate it. All the people that I watch on BookTube who have similar opinions to me have loved it. So I was fully expecting this to be Victoria Schwab's standout book for me. I love Vicious, not interested in anything else that she's written, and it just wasn't. I'm going to give you my synopsis of Addie LaRue. Addie LaRue is basically the story of a girl who sells her soul to the devil in exchange for immortality. Well, technically it's in exchange for freedom, but for some reason he decides that the way to give her this is by making sure that everyone forgets her. So the story is basically 500 pages of Addie having sex with someone and then they forget her. Addie getting into trouble and getting saved by the devil man who is hot, or Addie stealing something. If you're interested in books about one night stands, getting into trouble and stealing, this is the book for you. It isn't, however, the book for me. So the next trope is love triangles, and love triangles are famously hated. Personally, I feel like I would really love a love triangle in a book, but I don't ever feel like we really get love triangles. It's always like the love interest and the best friend. It's never like an actual love triangle where the main character is actually interested in both of the people. It's always like very obvious which one she's gonna go for. Or what I would like to see in a love triangle is where they just like all end up together. Perfect. Side note as well, when I was a kid, I was really confused about love triangles because I was like, well, a love triangle is actually like a V because it's 2 people in love with one person, and actually a love triangle should be like A is in love with B and B is in love with C and C is in love with A. And my little brain just could not comprehend the idea of a love triangle because it's a V, not a triangle. Anyway, irrelevant. So the question for love triangle is, name a book series where you can't pick a favourite book. I don't actually know if I have an answer for this. I think it's gonna have to be something really obscure because A, I don't finish a lot of series, and B, I almost always have a favourite book, and weirdly for me it is usually the middle book. I just like a nice slow journey with the characters. I might have to go on Goodreads. Oh, okay, I've got a good one. So the Nevermore series, or the Morrigan Crow series, I can never really remember what that's actually called. That series, I love all 3 books that have been released so far. equally. I don't think I could pick a favourite. No, I definitely can't pick a favourite. So that is a series that fits with this. Also, that is the best middle grade series that I have ever read. So highly recommend that if you haven't read it already. So the next trope is not like other girls. Didn't know I was so beautiful. Which is a trope that, again, let's be honest, how annoying is that? Where she's like, I'm so plain, but every man loves me. Anastasia Steele. Oh, anyway, question for this trope is, name a book that had a pretty cover but is boring as hell. And I am actually going to go and get this book because it is just over there. Stunning. Stunning, stunning. And this is just the naked book. The dust jacket is beautiful as well. This is The Binding by Bridget Collins, and yeah, this book is like okay. A lot of people really like this. It is like a historical fantasy set in, I don't know, like maybe the Victorian era. I know nothing about history, so I don't know if that is even slightly correct. But it's like not set in medieval times. It's like very different. It's a very different setting to a lot of fantasy books, which was cool. So in the world of The Binding, books don't exist in the way they exist for us. A book is a process of taking someone's memories, putting them onto paper, and then that person forgets whatever memories they have placed in the book. People don't read these memories, or if they do, it's incredibly taboo. And if you were reading like a book that actually wasn't someone's memories, that's just seen as very strange and weird. So in this book, we are following a boy who has become an apprentice to a binder, and he begins to realise that there may be some memories he's forgotten, / he meets someone who remembers him and he doesn't remember them. I can't remember exactly which way round it happens, but that's the story. Now, this book is boring. It's so predictable. We know what the magic in the world is, so we know why our main character can't remember this other guy. And it's not a huge stretch of the imagination to figure out what might have happened. I mean, I'm sure you can guess from what I've just said, and you're not even reading the book, and I'm not even like hinting at it. It's just that obvious. So it was really obvious. I don't think the magic was really looked into enough because it's a very interesting concept, but we didn't really go anywhere with it. And honestly, I can't even remember how this ends because it was that boring. I think I gave the book 3 stars overall. I think it was like an okay read, but honestly, it was just dull, and I will probably never pick up another book by this author because I just don't think it was that good. Plus, she's a TERF. So the next trope is all-consuming love, and this is actually a trope I don't mind that much. And the question for this trope is a book that gave you a hangover. I don't think that's something that I really experience. I have like books that I read and then all I can do is consume more books like that because I become so obsessed with the genre after being like so enamored with that book. But I don't really go into a reading slump because a book is that good. So I'm just going to talk about one of the books that like drove me to obsession, and the ultimate example of this is Punk 57. Punk 57 was the first romance book I ever read, and to say that I then got obsessed with romance, 6 months, all I read was romance. I just consumed all of the romance books in existence, and it was a fun time, but I really was like getting a bit stressed because I wanted to read other books and I couldn't focus on anything that wasn't romance. I recently reread Punk 57 and experienced the same thing. I read that book and I was like, right, I need to read all of that romance again. But these days I am displaying a little bit more self-control. I will not let myself fall into another smutty romance hole. But yeah, Punk 57, the ultimate romance. So the next question is Douchebag Boyfriend, and this is a book that took you a little while to get into but you ended up loving. I don't know, that's a hard question. For me, usually if I don't like a book in the first 50 pages, I won't like the book. But also for me, I struggle with the first 50 pages of most books anyway. I'm now into 2019 and there isn't an example of this. So I'm going to stop looking because I honestly I don't think there is an example of that, because as I said, I usually can tell pretty early on if I'm going to be into a book or not. And there are probably books like this, but I've DNF'd them because I don't have the time. I'm a busy woman. I don't have the time to read a book that I am not fully invested in. So for this, I am gonna go with Crescent City. And the reason I'm going with Crescent City is because I did initially DNF this book. I don't think really it was anything to do with Crescent City because it ended up being my favourite book of the year in 2020. But the first time I read it, I really wasn't enjoying it. And so I guess it took me a little while to get into, in that I just had to take some time away, reflect on my life choices, and when I came back, it was with love in my heart. Okay, and our final question is to tell you my most favourite trope and my least favourite trope, and I can't think of any tropes, so BRB. How can there be 101 tropes? So that didn't work. Looking at lists of tropes just confused me. So I'm just gonna go with what I define as a trope. And I'm probably gonna lean quite heavily on romance, because in regards to my fantasy, I don't really care. I think you can write any trope well, whether that be the chosen one or even insta-love. Like Strange the Dreamer is insta-love, but I don't mind it in that book because I think it makes sense in that context. So in fantasy, I really don't have a problem with any trope, but in romance, I am far more selective. So what I really hate is when we have innocent virgin. I hate virgins in romance books. I don't hate virgins in real life, but in romance books, I just find it very unbelievable that you have this woman who's like 25, she's drop dead gorgeous, but she doesn't know it because she's so innocent and shy and timid, and no man has ever touched her. And we have this like strong, sexy alpha male who comes and touches her on her arm, and then she has like an orgasm. I have really strong dislike for that in romance books. 50 Shades of Grey is obviously like a very good example of this, but I feel like it used to happen so much in romance. When I used to read a lot of romance when I was younger, this was like so common, and I do feel like now we have a lot more sex positivity in our female characters. They are more empowered to have used their vagina. Why did I do that? They are more empowered, they are usually more experienced, and I just feel like that reads truer than like someone who has no experience and somehow is, you know, able to do all the sex things. In regards to my most favourite trope, I'm not going to say this, but actually on the flip side of what I just said, like a super strong, empowered sexual woman, I think is really sexy to have in a romance book. But I'm not going to say that because that's like a cop-out. I would say my favourite is probably Enemies to Lovers. Like, I am literally that basic bitch, but I just love the angst. I just love the angst, and I love a sexy consent scene. Like Katie Roberts, we live for her. Like, she does it well. She does it well, and I just find that really sexy. So that's what I like. Consent and Enemies to Lovers, like, yes. And just to use Love Island as an example of like how consent can be sexy, there was a scene in Love Island where this girl was like in her underwear being all sexy, and the guy was like enamored with how beautiful she looked and was like, oh my god, can I touch you? Like, that's sexy. Consent is sexy. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope it wasn't too chaotic. It feels very chaotic, but hopefully once I've edited it, it's not too chaotic. I won't be tagging anyone specifically, but if you would like to do this tag, then please just consider yourself tagged. Just let me know so I can come and watch it. Let me know in the comments down below what tropes you like or don't like. If you enjoyed this video, then please give me a thumbs up. And if you want to see more from me in the future, then don't forget to subscribe. And hopefully you'll come back and see me in another video soon. Bye!